Yes, welcome into Sports Bet Betting Insight today. Pauly and Teddy Tuesday, April 18th, big game breakdown. 3 huge games to go over in the NBA playoffs, and we try to make it 5 in a row for the viewers with the play of the day. Teddy back from being sick. It's going around, vicious out there, so we can recap a couple horrible beats over the weekend in the NBA because we were off Monday. How about the Spurs-Grizzly total in Game 1? 190, 191, depends where you shop and when you bet it. Harrison, a 27-footer that puts it over. And if you watched the game last night, that's what you're supposed to do. Both teams dribble it out, don't even bother to shoot in a 14-point game. This is a 30-point game, and both teams are attacking the basket and trying to score.
Yeah, I mean, this is a brutal beat if you had the under just because of how it went down. Look, the Grizzlies didn't reach 20 in the second quarter. They didn't reach 20 in the third quarter. They didn't reach 20 in the fourth quarter. You're supposed to cash under bets in those type of games. And as you mentioned, Andrew Harrison, just like he did in Kentucky a couple of times with the three-pointer from the parking lot. They finished with 193. Game total closes 191. That's a tough beat if you had the under.
Yep, and Game 1 between the Bulls and the Celtics. Whether you got 207.5 or 208, either way a tough loss or a vicious push. The end game scramble points in that one, and it was set up by that horrible charge against Butler.
Yeah, I mean, it starts with a bad call, but 17 points scored in the last minute and 20 seconds of that ballgame. 8 of them in the final 20 seconds after the charge call on Butler with the late scramble points. That was a dead nuts under that ended up pushing or losing for under better. Total close 207, 207.5, 208. They finished with 208. That was a tough beat. I think that was tougher than the Spurs-Grizz if you had the under in that one.
Yeah, over the weekend, overs went 5-3, dogs went 5-3. And in the East, I mean, if Miles hits that shot, the 1, the 2, and the 3 seeds all would have lost Game 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a dog and over-friendly weekend. But, I mean, the overs only went 5-3 thanks to the late scramble points in Boston, Chicago. The dogs, I mean, as you mentioned, in the East, 1, 2, and 3 seeds came this close to all losing straight up.
Here's a couple bad bets. You got to watch sports, but if you're not, tell your friends. What are you doing? They're betting the Cavs, and I can't believe they're betting the under in a Cavs game. Worst defense in the NBA in March. Second worst defense since the break. Points per 100 possessions. Paul George had a big game, and the Cavs, again, almost, they did blow a big lead, and the Pacers made it interesting late.
They sure did. And, you know, Cleveland bet from 7.5 all the way up to -9. The under bet from 211.5. It was as low as 208 throughout the course of the day. A little bit of over money before tip-off sent it back up to 209, but still an aggregate move of 2.5 points to the under. And look, exactly, how many different ways do people have to tell the betting markets that Cleveland's defense stinks? You know, the Pacers score 111 points again. They ruined the bettors on the side. They ruined the bettors on the total. Paul George, 61 points in the first 2 games of the series, virtually unstoppable. And Cleveland's up 2-0 because the Pacers can't guard them, not because they can guard Indiana. Obviously, a couple of bad bets in that game.
Yep, well said there. 19 straight first-round wins for LeBron James. The Rays, the day game, Patriots stay in Boston, 15-cent move on the Rays. They got to right early, but the Red Sox win 4-3.
Yeah, I mean, bettors got in line to bet against right after that awful opener, but knuckleballers are not necessarily current form type of guys. The pitch is either on or not on any given day. One start doesn't necessarily mean that much to the next. Now, they did get to right for 2 runs in the first, and then he put up 5 straight zeros on that scoreboard. Rough road trip for the Rays, 1-6 on that road trip. And, of course, the earliest start time of the year for MLB, 8 a.m. Pacific. But bettors were every bit as wrong about the total in that game as they were about the side, Pauly.
Yes, that one didn't. What was up with that?
I don't know. I mean, open 9.5. It got bet up to 10. You know, the game's 4-2 in the bottom of the second, so I guess bettors were thinking, correct in thinking the starters might get roughed up, but just 1 run the rest of the way. The 2 good bullpens at the top of their game.
20-cent move on the Cubs. They were laying $2 at home against the Brewers. They've lost 4 in a row at home. They're now under 500 on the season. This bullpen stinks right now.
Yeah, but it wasn't the bullpen yesterday. It was John Lackey. I mean, Lackey got tagged for home runs. Eric Thames, Ryan Braun, Jeff Bandy. The Brewers' power game was working, and Chicago backers not enjoying the first few weeks of the MLB season. The Cubs now 4 consecutive home losses, all as big chalk.
And the A's were a bad bet. 15-cent move here, and the Rangers got him.
Yeah, and the slumping Rangers. I mean, they were talking about Jarrell Cotton like he was Pedro. Not quite yet. He got lit up by that potent Rangers lineup, and A.J. Griffin really dominated his former squad. Bad bet for the Oakland A's.
How about bad for the books? The Astros, 25-cent move. They shut out the Angels at home. And how about hockey? Western Conference playoffs only. Western Conference only under 7, 1, and 5 so far. It's crazy how many games have landed on 5 so far in the playoffs, but a ton of unders in the Western Conference so far.
And again, that there's not much wiggle room when it comes to hockey totals. You're talking about 5 or 5.5, and those are basically the numbers that it's going to be. Obviously, with juice attached, depending. But when you see a run of unders, the books aren't going to post 4.5. They're not going to post 4s. It's going to sit there at 5 with juice to the under, and savvy bettors have cashed in already in these Western Conference playoffs.
Finally got an over with Calgary and Anaheim. I know Ian Cameron was big on that one, guy we have on from time to time with hockey here. Up next, big game breakdown. Oh, man, here we are. We told you Friday. The Raptors lost game 1. We'll get to that NBA TV game and the doubleheader on TNT up next on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Go to SBROdds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
Back on SportsBit, Betting Insight today. Time for big game breakdown. As always, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Here we go again. Raptors down 1-0 in a series. Nothing new to them. This is on NBA TV. Raptors at home 7.5, 193 the total. Game 1, who were the vets and who were the newcomers? Lowry and DeRozan combined 9 of 32 and 0 of 8 from 3. The Greek Freak, 28 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals. Brogdon in his first ever playoff game, 16 points and 6 rebounds. Excellent job slowing down Lowry, who was 2 of 11. And Monroe off the bench, 25 minutes, 15 points and 15 rebounds. But again, nothing new for the Raptors. We talked about this Friday on SportsBit. 1-11 all-time in Game 1 of a series. 9 straight losses in Game 1, Teddy.
Yeah, and when you look at what's happened in Game 2s in these recent series, not a lot to be excited about if you're a Toronto Raptors fan. Last year, they lose Game 1 in Round 1 to Indiana. Hey, they won Game 2 by 11, covered the point spread. Last year, they lost to Miami, second round. Won Game 2 in overtime, did not cover, -5. 2 years ago, they lost Game 1 at home to Washington. They lost Game 2 in straight-up fashion as well, also as -5. And 3 years ago, they lost Game 1 at home to Brooklyn. They pushed -5 in Game 2. So they've been in comparable spots 4 times over the last 3 seasons. They cover the spread in exactly 1 of those Game 2s. And you see the quote. Here's the quote right here from DeMar DeRozan. Quote, "I don't know. I have no clue. It's not something we're unfamiliar with. We make it hard on ourselves. We missed a lot of shots that we'd normally make. We have to understand that we can't let that affect us getting back in transition. They took advantage of it and put us away."
They're also blown out, which is cause for concern. When we previewed this series, this was a great matchup for the Raptors because they were second in the league post-All-Star break in rebounding, while the Bucks were 29th. But it was 51-32 in the second half. It was a 5-point game at the half. Here's Casey. Our second half was abysmal. We didn't play with any pace, any rhythm, any movement. We have to give them credit. They did a good job defensively. We're totally out of rhythm in the second half. We didn't do a good job of getting back in transition, end quote. And they couldn't handle the Greek Freak one-on-one. And double teams didn't work either. Kid, Giannis is a special player. He can cause problems by getting 2 or 3 guys on him, and for him just being able to read. I thought our guys did a great job of sharing the ball. The ball wasn't sticking. They didn't care who shot it or who made the shot. It was about making the right play. I think the zigzag theory is a bunch of bunk, and that went away a long time ago. But as you expect to get a big effort out of the Raptors here, but I don't want to lay that price to find out.
Exactly. It's really hard. I trusted Toronto in Game 1. If there was ever a spot and a matchup, I'm like, this is the year. The Raptors are real. This is a spot that they're supposed to take care of business. Didn't happen, obviously, in Game 1. And the way that it didn't happen, with the same guys who have failed them in the past, most notably Lowry. Forget DeRozan. DeRozan had a rough shooting game, but it was Lowry. And Lowry has been such a mercurial figure in the postseason. We've seen him play at incredibly high levels, But more often than not, he's been bad. And more often than not, he's been really bad. Toronto can't win this game, let alone cover this number, without Kyle Lowry playing at an elite level. And I don't know if it's in his head. I don't know if the rookie is just giving him too much problems defensively. But if Kyle Lowry doesn't show, Toronto will be lucky to win this game, let alone covering this number, zigzag theory or not. And I'm with you 100% on the theory, Pauly. And this is something that we want to talk about a little bit more as the week progresses. But the basic concept of the zigzag, where you're betting on the team that lost the last game in these competitive series. There was a time that the zigzag was very profitable. That time was the 1990s. In the 21st century, I went back and did an extensive study. It was basically a 50-50 proposition, and there were many instances in which the zigzag theory was a negative expectation wager. And look at this. Toronto's laying 7 in Game 1. They lose straight up. Oh, now you get to lay 7.5 for them in Game 2. The markets react to the zigzag as well.
Yep, good point there. TNT, doubleheader, game number 1. Live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Bulls and Celtics. Celtics 7, 205.5 the total. You can't handicap human emotion. And Isaiah Thomas was terrific after the loss of his sister. But that's the game you're supposed to win because the supporting cast is supposed to rally around their leader and teammate and have a big game. And they did not deliver. Their bench stunk. And for the third time against the Bulls, they got destroyed on the boards. Chicago had 20 offensive rebounds, beat them on the boards by 17. The other 2 wins, they beat them by 19 and 20 on the boards as well. Worst sign for Boston, you got to worry about Butler, Rondo, and Wade. And Butler was the best player on the floor, at least how he shot the ball down the stretch. But Portis had a big game, and Grant had a big game. That's not supposed to happen when you look at the Chicago bench against the Celtics bench. And Olynyk and Jaylen Brown were no-shows and killed them in this one.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you look, and let's get that graphic up there real quick. With all the reserves, all the bench players that played at least 10 minutes or more in this ballgame. This is a battle that the Boston Celtics, on paper, are really supposed to win. They got to win these bench battles. They got to win these role player battles because of the aforementioned Butler, Rondo, Wade combo with all the playoff experience, the rings, etc., etc. But here it is, and Portis and Zipser and Grant and Felicio all with strong pluses, and the Celtics, key contributors, all with minuses next to them. Butler, a little bit too good for anyone on Boston to check. 30 points and 9 rebounds.
There's Butler. We were locked in all week. We knew their stuff just like they knew ours, but we executed extremely well. We haven't done that all season, but this is the right time to do it. Isaiah Thomas shot well, 10 of 18, 33 points, but he has as many turnovers as assists, and we'll see if he can keep the energy up. He's supposed to go back for the funeral and then get back to the team. Brad Stevens, quote, trying his best to compartmentalize what he's here to work on, what he needs to work on, but I'm sure that's difficult. But we were together for some film, some walkthrough. He'll be back Tuesday. I think he's as good as he can be, end quote. And how about the adjusted series price on this? The Celtics were $5 before Game 1. Now they're minus 150 to win the series. This is a 1 against an 8 seed.
Well, the markets are saying that for a 1-8 matchup, it's going to be competitive. And just one minor correction there. Looks like Thomas, the information that I had was that he is going to be with the team until after Game 2. Then he's off to Tacoma and Washington because they have 2 days off before Game 3. And that's what Stevens was trying to say in his quote. He's like, look, Isaiah's going to try to compartmentalize what he's going on, what he's going through, and, hang out with the team and go through some film and some walkthrough and do the best he can given the situation. But one thing Isaiah Thomas will not help them on is the rebounding battle. And you talked about the issues that the Boston Celtics have had in this department. Let's not forget, the Celtics won the rebounding battle in one of these games by 11. The other 4 games, it was an average of plus 16 for the Bulls. Double-digit margin all 4 of those times.
And here's Jay Crowder. I just think that awareness is a major key on that. We have to be more aware of where Butler's at the court and where the rebounders are. I think once we have an awareness of where they are, we can take care of it. But I think it's not just only on the bigs, it's on the guards to come in and clean up. Those guys are in the trenches fighting, so us guards have to come help our bigs out the entire series. And, well, your season's on the line See if you can send this back to Chicago, tied at 1. Up next, the Jazz and the Clippers. Another home team that got beat, and a big injury. We'll get to that and the play of the days. We try to make it 5 in a row for you, the viewers, up next on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.
Wrapping up on SportsBit, Betting Insight today. Big game breakdown rolls on. LiveOddsSportsBookReview.com. The last game, the doubleheader on TNT, Jazz and the Clippers. Clippers 9, 195.5 the total. Great job by Quinn Snyder. Great job the entire season in what he did in Game 1. The mistake Nate McMillan made calling the timeout, and they couldn't get a good look in Game 1 against Cleveland. He decided, let's not take the timeout. Let's have Joe Johnson attack Crawford, hit the game-winning shot. Good job there. Also, McMillan, how are you out of timeouts? Well, they give you 7 or 8. That's inexcusable. That was a great job by Snyder, letting them go after Crawford, and Joe Johnson was huge in that game. But how do they replace Gobert, who is out for this game, and who knows when he comes back for the series? Gobert played 17 seconds, but they still won the game, Teddy.
For Utah, where Snyder did not call the timeout. Okay, what we saw in Indiana with McMillan, who called the timeout, was it allowed the Cavs to set their defense. Here, the Clips were not allowed to set their defense. That left Jamal Crawford on the court, and that allowed Joe Johnson to just back him down so far that it pushed DeAndre Jordan under the basket, took him out of the play. But when you talk about Snyder, who's done a lot of good job this season, playing games on the fly and replacing guys on the fly, in a situation where Gobert's out with a minute of the game, I thought it was advantage Utah because the Clips couldn't prepare to attack as a team without him. Doc Rivers, quote, "I thought they played well under adverse conditions with Gobert going down. In some ways, that helped them. They got small and stretched the floor, which hurt us a little bit, and we didn't play great."
Johnson 9 of 14, 21 points, 3 assists, 3 steals. Should be a liability on defense, but the Clippers didn't make it happen. They have to punish him down low, and that's Blake Griffin. He's supposed to dominate without Gobert. He was only 7 of 18 on 2-point shots and had 6 turnovers, but the potential weakness going forward, Gobert had been the Iron Man and glue guy that held the Jazz together while others were injured. He only missed 1 game in the regular season. And it's like Quinn Snyder said, who knows when they're coming back? Who knows when he's coming back? It's not serious damage, but I don't know if he comes back in this series. That's where the Clippers catch a break in this one, but it's a tough handicap, Teddy.
Well, yeah, but the markets certainly aren't underreacting to the Gobert injury. With Utah, you're laying a premium with the Clips in this ballgame, and the Jazz beat them by playing small. Maybe they do it again. You put Johnson at the 4, you put Diaw at the 5. In theory, Utah is supposed to struggle a little bit if the Clips are making good adjustments with Diaw and Johnson, two aging veterans playing so many minutes. But Clips didn't make that happen in Game 1. As you mentioned, Griffin didn't take over the game like he's supposed to without Gobert. And it's a Clips team that, we've seen this story before, almost like the Raptors where we've seen it before. Clippers have been consistent underachievers in the postseason. The Gobert injury does not make me inclined to lay an even higher price with the LA Clippers in Game 2 than you might have been willing to lay with them in Game 1.
Yeah, and plus they know they're going to blow that up, especially if they can't get out of the first round. What a debacle that would be. Money time, play of the day. Let's make it 5 in a row for the viewers. Remember, we had a Clippers total that we lost, but you won because the line moved against us, although we only have to give it out early here when we do the show. Betting number 529, 530. Clippers Jazz over 195.5. Expect the Clippers to come out attacking the basket without Gobert, and they have time to prepare now, so I don't think Diaw should create a problem as he's your interior defender down low. Big spot for the Clippers. See if they get the offense going. Let's go over 195.5, the total there. All right, playoffs are here. Wild weekend the rest of the week. Champions League. Busy week coming up, and the hockey playoffs have been dynamite with all the overtime games. Come right back here Wednesday for another triple header on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.